we are discussing management now and beyond. In this, in our last lecture, we were discussing globalization, the global organizations and workforce development, and I was sharing with you some of the experience and recent research trends in India based on some of the studies which we have conducted here at IIT Delhi. And now we move on to discuss the concept of psychological empowerment. We have talked about empowerment in some of the earlier lectures, and today we are discussing empowerment, one of the studies that we have conducted on empowerment as an antecedent to organizational commitment in Indian managers. So, this study attempts to measure psychological empowerment and organizational commitment in a sample of 607 managers of global corporations drawn from various organizations in India. They are grouped in terms of the technology they adopt, the organizations, the technology they adopt. This study attempts to predict the psychological empowerment through organizational commitment, and the results of this study support that there is a close relationship between the implications of the Indian industry and the HRD, okay, and then there is a close relationship between psychological empowerment and performance. Yes, that has not been, yeah, psychological empowerment and performance. Strategic HR roles in Indian organizations also need attention, and so in another study we have explored the strategic HR roles in India and need for HRD managers development. They also call for training in the HR roles. This study was conducted on a sample of 600 managers falling in different industrial units, various industrial units, and the study seeks to probe HR line managers' perception of the strategic HR roles and the status of the strategic HR roles. And here the impact of the background variables has also been discussed with the strategic HR roles, and the descriptive statistics, correlation coefficients and the bivariate analysis have been done. We have discussed these methods earlier in our chapter on methodology. Yes. So, I am not repeating that again. So, findings of this study indicate that there is no difference in the perception of the strategic partner roles in the managers of public sector and multinational firms. Yes, there are various types of roles that we play and we did not find any difference. However, there was a significant difference in the perception of HR managers and the line managers. The results provide support for strategic HR roles which are of moderate quality, found only in the managers of the IT sector. When we say 9 different sectors, that includes IT is one of the sectors where we have collected data. The other sectors being pharmaceutical, chemical, telecommunications and so on. In another study, the framework of strategic HRM dimensions, yes, human resource management dimensions have been tested empirically through the Indian organizations as perceived by the Indian managers. The organizational analysis has been presented on 2 bases, 2 different sets of issues: the nature of ownership, that is public sector, private sector and multinational corporations, both Indian and global, In fact, Indian global, when we say Indian organizations going global and global organizations coming to India, so that is what we mean. And type of technology which is essentially representative of the various industries drawn randomly from the national capital region of India. You understand? Yes, around Delhi, national capital region of India. And the study is based on the primary and secondary sources of information and based on a survey research design, and triangular results have been found, and these have been attempted developing case studies based on personal interviews and the secondary sources of data. We have discussed earlier what is primary source and what is the secondary source of data earlier in one of the lectures on methodology again. So, the results have been attempted and developing case studies based on the personal interviews and secondary sources of data. The study analyzed the relationship between strategic HRM dimensions of strategic HR roles, organizational learning capability, psychological empowerment, and organizational commitment in the global organizations, private and public organizations in India. Yes, that is a study which was done in I said about 2 years ago. Yeah. No, not that old. It is a study, it's about 2 years, so 2005 we can say. Yes, earlier also people have done such studies. Prediction of organizational commitment using strategic HRM dimensions, strategic HR roles, organizational learning capability and psychological empowerment have been done, and this study supports the prediction as found significant differences on the impact of individual level contingency variables on strategic HRM dimensions. Individual level contingency variable, yes, there could be an organizational level contingency variables, there could be individual level contingency variables. So, this result pertains to the individual level contingency variables. We also observed significant difference in the perception of strategic human resource dimensions in public sector and private sector organizations. So, there are differences because of the different types of organizational culture. And looking at the prediction of firm performance, we found that the strategic human resource management dimensions which relate to HR roles, organizational learning, psychological empowerment and commitment are the predictors of performance of the firm, of the performance of the sample. That means, the firms have been taken in as the major samples. So, what we are trying to say that if organizational culture provides for some of these possibilities, then the performance of the organization will also be better. That is what we can sort of say, we can conclude from number of these studies which we have done. Then the HR roles and organizational learning capability. In this study, the focus is on empirical analysis of strategic HR roles and organizational learning capability of the line and HR firm managers in the various firms, and the performance is further analyzed in terms of the sample size, which is about 640 in this case, 640 managers in India. So, the standardized questionnaires we had used, and as tool for data collection, and we found that the perception of the variables, okay, they the link with the data collection, the statistical results indicate that the correlation coefficients were generally significant in most of the cases and positive for the variables and sub-variables of strategic HR roles and organizational learning capabilities. We have also done discriminant function analysis there, which is reflected in the line and staff managers. They differed significantly in their perception of both variables, and the stepwise regression analysis indicated that both the variables of strategic HR roles and organizational learning capabilities predict firm performance. Basically, we are looking at firm performance, the effectiveness, profitability, survival and growth. So, some of these factors become important so far as Indian organizations are concerned. Then in earlier one of the chapters we have discussed about workforce diversity, and there also we were emphasizing that there is need for HRD in India, and in fact we need to invest a lot in HRD. In this study, which I had also talked about some studies on HR on workforce diversity in my discussion on the diversity earlier, but here one of the important strategic challenges facing the organizations today is that valuing the differences and adapting its diverse workforce. So, over the past few years we find diversity at the workplace has become a major challenge for many organizations because the character of their workforce composition is changing. See, the world is changing and people are changing, their minds are changing, their aspirations and expectations are changing, and so and also with globalization we have the cultural changes also. Workforce diversity is one of the challenging questions which we have discussed in many other references in the earlier discussions. Some of the issues that we have also dealt with are that women, the elder or the older workforce, diverse educational backgrounds, different specifications, and now they are emerging as the workforce in large numbers. Particularly women, we have devoted 2 lectures on women and gender issues as a challenge for managers. So earlier part we had discussed that. So once again I am referring to that because we are coming towards the conclusion of the course. So once again sort of a recap you can say. Therefore, the composition of today's workforce is very much different than the past, and the organizations are also becoming different and more perhaps we can say heterogeneous in some sense we can say in the form of gender, culture, religion, religious backgrounds, age groups, educational qualifications and so on. And so, this assumes the relevance in the Indian industrial context also, because in India, even though in terms of industrialization we have entered much late, but today as we stand we are becoming a real I will say major performance in the field of industrialization, particularly in certain sectors. And so, now we have no other choice than to see that diversity is really taken care of, I mean with great importance. So, in this study we carried out this is a study, some part of this I had mentioned in my diversity lecture. Once again I am talking about this study which was conducted in an information technology company, and which has offices in New Delhi, the head office perhaps is in New Delhi, or the offices in New Delhi or many other cities in the various metros, various larger cities in India, and the organization has 300 employees and mix of diversity in many sense. And so the study considered within the survey research method framework, a factor analyzed questionnaire was developed to measure the perception of the employees on the HRM issues, and was developed to elicit the responses from the employees of the selected organization. In this study, we had just taken one organization because we thought that better control will be there, and that is why we did not go to many IT sector organizations. And since we had permission to conduct this study, we have conducted this study only in one organization, but that might have implications for other IT companies as well. So, the HRD variables of this study are the organizational strategy, job design, enrichment, managerial effectiveness, organizational commitment, empowerment, team spirit, reward and recognition system, competency, upgradation, organizational values, equity and rewards and salary, cost consciousness, performance management, incentive schemes and resources. And out of this, in this analysis, we had taken the diversity variables like levels in the organization, hierarchy, place of work, length of service, total work experience, age, gender, education, departmental affiliation. Are you getting the study that I am trying to talk about? Taking these diversity variables and some of those HR variables which I have just shown to you, we tried to see whether people differ with regard to these variables. And in this analysis, we found this study reveals that the diverse group of employees have significant differences in their perception of HRM issues and the HRD needs. That is very important. When we are trying to actually have HRD as a movement, we have to see the HRD needs of the employees, and so that relates to the diversity at the place of work. There appears a positive correlation between the perception of HRD issues and the diversity variables in this study, and then we find that variables also have, we have looked at the prediction values of these variables in terms of statistical analysis, and the predictors of perception of HRM issues are some of these, like they highlighted the importance of giving strategic focus to the HRD issues and the roles of designing and implementing HRD strategies and achieve organizational effectiveness and the competitive advantage. In other words, what we are trying to say from the earlier study, that the HRD is the need of the hour, and we have to see, because people at different levels, at different gender, different class, they differ in their perception. We have to see that they should become beneficial to the organization and beneficial to themselves in order to actually achieve the better performance and the competitive advantage that your firm perhaps will achieve. So, we just can't say that okay, there is one rule and there is just one guideline and that should apply to everyone. We have to use the contingency perhaps approach to analyze these situations in order to really optimize on the human efficiency, human productivity. Yes. So, from here I take you to the issue of gender. The issue of gender, this we have discussed earlier also, 2 lectures on gender and women at the place of work. Also in diversity we have discussed that, and you must be thinking that why so much emphasis. The reason is that that's a new workforce all over the world, but much so in India, because with our development, our globalization, you find that women have become so important at the place of work. Important, when I say important in terms of the number, okay, many women are working here. I am not saying important in any other sense. Okay. The role of women in Indian society, that has changed, that is what I am trying to say over the years, and this is from the Vedic era. The values have changed, so the roles have also changed, and from the Vedic era to modern times, and male and female couple mentoring, the contemporary concept of Vedic themes, this has been forgotten, and then gradually we have made a supremacy which was evolved over the years, gradually that has become different now. However, in today's time, women have really developed confidence, and as a result of socio-cultural changes, they have developed the potential to contribute to the development. So we have to look at this issue at the place of organization as one of the issues of development. So, the heart of development process is social change. In our discussion on social change, also the change management of change, we have discussed also on the issue of development. So, the heart of development process is the social change, education, values and environmental factors. Women are entering the formal work scenario as active partners in today's global economy, and they have made significant contributions in the areas of agriculture, rural development, primary education, higher education and research, and now of course the industrialization leading to development of India. And when we say industrialization, women are working in a big way in many of the industries and many of the organizations, many service industries and many other sectors. So, women's empowerment becomes important as a concept which we have to see when we are looking at the whole issue of management now and beyond. Women's empowerment is constituted in terms of a number of micro and macro level factors, and some of the macro level dimensions are the socio-economic factors, education, employment and health care. In democracy, the nutritional status and the social values. Some of these factors are also emphasized in the Human Development Index and the Gender Development. In fact, it is Human Development Index. However, the success of women needs further and the development of skill of women, their knowledge, their awareness, opportunities, social support and motivation. These are some of the issues in the success of women which management has to realize, recognize and perhaps emphasize, create conditions so that women can really come out with the best results possible. Entrepreneurship is also an important concept in this regard, and this leads to the economic empowerment on the one hand and development of high self-esteem, confidence and intrinsic motivation on the other spheres of life. Entrepreneurship, when we are talking about this, refers to women, of course. Women get empowered, when they become entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurship generally also is very important for India's development. So, empowerment of women, a research scenario, when I am just planning very quickly, I will go through this because part of that we have already done in some of the earlier lectures. So, in this sector, studies have been presented briefly to develop a scenario regarding what, why and how of women's empowerment. And about this I have touched upon in earlier also. So, the study presents perception of 450 professional women about the resources for the work, and the analysis presented here, this relates to different family income groups. And in fact, the tables have I am just very quickly I am putting this table, that why people or women are working, the reason for that. Okay, you can see, isn't that very interesting to note that how many people feel that work is suited to my qualification, and how many people how many women feel that the circumstances force them to take up the job. How many women feel that it is for their job satisfaction? How many women feel that it is the friends or the social influence, and how many women feel that doing job is in fashion. So, you can see that this is a survey of women professionals, and you can see that maximum number of women would like to enter as a workforce because they feel that work is suited to their qualification. Isn't that the alternatives I seem very interesting? And this is what it is in India today. Then also some other aspects that I had listed here on becoming financially sound. The other aspects, the job has promotional avenues and it gives me identity. This is the utilization of time or any other reason. I thought this table I will show you because this is very interesting and gives us an idea about women at the place of work and how they are feeling empowered if they are actually at they are working. In another study, that was one study. In another study, this was sponsored by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, yes. And in this we investigated, I got that project, and in that I was trying to investigate the occupational choices of women with science and technology education. And in this study 300 women architects, doctors and engineers participated, and the study revealed that the self evaluation of work suggests that 62% of the respondents perceive themselves as good performers, 23 perceive themselves as the excellent performers, and only 9% feel that they are not good at performance. And this reveals that working there, like there is a high work motivation among women. You can see that only 9% feel that they are not good performers, but all others are feeling at least average or very good performer. These are the women architects, scientists, the engineers and doctors. Not scientists, okay. Another study I have done with scientists. In here only these three professional groups. So, you can see the based on these studies. In yet another study of 321 Indian middle class managers, this we conducted to find out whether male or female managers differ significantly in the empowering leadership perception, and it was observed that the mean value of the managers was 1.7, whereas for women managers it was 2.8. Even though the number of cases you can see are lesser, but even then the mean value of empowering leadership, we find that this is more for women. So, the managers with empowering leadership attitudes have also the positive egalitarian attitude. This was another finding from the same study. So, you find that gender becomes an important factor, and how women themselves perceive their work life, and they would certainly like to contribute to the national development and their own development in many ways. So, it is time for us to gear up that now and beyond, that whether we like it or no, we have to make sure that we have a society and the organizations which take care of this factor. Then we come to the issue of innovation. In this study, we have attempted to empirically analyze the effects of employer perception of innovation initiatives taken by an organization on empowering leadership style adopted by the managers. It is proposed in this study that if employees perceive organizational climate with encouraging innovation and creativity, then people would be encouraged to adopt an empowering leadership style towards their juniors. So, in this study and this paper, we have of course relied on the both quantitative data as well as the qualitative data. So, the measures of employee perception and empowering leadership style and the qualitative reports given by the managers on an open ended questionnaire regarding the two variables. The quantitative data was subjected to correlation coefficient, ANOVA, post hoc analysis and qualitative data, and was analyzed through also the content analysis. These are the methods. These are the methods of analysis where we are trying to look at the innovation and say the culture, work culture in terms of the empowering leadership style. And the results of this study suggest that the perception of organizational climate in terms of innovation and learning initiatives are correlated with empowering leadership style. We have seen earlier in our one of the discussions that empowering leadership style is the need of the hour, and so here we are trying to relate the same concept to the innovation, the issue of innovation. The results of this study also point out are the differences between the manufacturing and the banking sector. In this study we had many sectors, and so in this study we compared the banking and the manufacturing sector, and we found that there were differences in these sectors, and the content analysis of the interviews of the senior managers reveals that the reasons for low innovation initiative by employees in the manufacturing sector and the higher degree of innovation initiative in the banking sector is seen. Well, you can see the kind of work designs that they have, and so where is the role for actually using your creativity and innovation at the place of work. Well, but this is just one of the studies that we have conducted, and this needs lot of we should say replications, and perhaps we have to repeat it number of times before we really integrate that into literature. But nevertheless, that does give us an idea about that organizational setup, organization, technology, that also makes a difference in how much innovative people could be in a particular organization. Then we come to uncertainty, which is emerging as an important factor and which forces managements to encourage creativity and empowering culture. So, sometimes when the organization is under uncertainty, volatile environment, then possibility of encouraging perhaps the innovation and empowerment might become difficult for managers. The results of this study are also suggesting that the strategic role HR policies, these may be important in terms of innovational linkages and innovation linked incentives in fostering the cultural innovation and empowerment. Yes, are there any questions on this? Yes. So, we move on to the issue of flexibility now. These concepts I am taking as the concluding remarks that we have in management now and beyond, that we have no choice than to look at some of these variables, some of these issues in the futures now and of course in the future. So, flexibility becomes an important factor. In a study of an international organization, a study of flexibility, we have done this study of flexibility, which revealed that most of the managers preferred a flexi-time system and the flexibility in their areas of their work. It is so difficult to implement that perhaps in all types of organizations, but in this study which we conducted, this international organization, obviously all the global corporations operating in India. So, we are not talking about that we have gone anywhere else and conducted study. All these studies have been done in India, the international organizations also operating in India. So, flexibility becomes an important factor, and of course, participative management we have devoted perhaps 2 or 3 lectures. So, empowerment through participation, this again is an issue. Participation in one of the studies we found that participation in profit making and non-profit making textile sectors, this has been analyzed, and in this study we attempted to investigate the employees' empowerment in terms of various factors which are related to participative management attitude, emphasizing on participative management as a job design strategy. The study is based on 3 groups of variables, that is participative management variables, job related variables and the background variables, and which include position in the various positions in the organization, age, educational qualification, work experience, etc. The sample included 300 employees consisting of managers, trade union leaders and workers, and also the experience of participative management were studied, and they were members of various committees at the time of this investigation. So, you can see that the trade union leaders, they were the members, and the workers, they were members of some participative management committee or some decision making committee at the time of this study was conducted. So, we try to find out whether participative management makes an impact on their work performance, their attitudes. The sample were collected from 10 units of public sector organization situated at Coimbatore in South India, the Textile Corporation. And in these organizations constitute the composite and non-composite units and profit making and non-profit making categories, and data were collected through a set of questionnaires which includes the background information, participative management variables and related variables. And the analysis has been done using bivariate, univariate and multivariate analysis. I do not need to explain that once again, we had touched upon that earlier. And so, this study reveals that there is a positive relationship between information sharing, understanding and the meaning of workers' participation, the attitude towards workers' participation in all the three groups of the respondents, and the findings show a significant relationship associated with attitude towards participative management. So, we found that participative management is a very good job design strategy. Yeah. Further, we found that the attitude towards participative management is positively related to job characteristics, perception, group atmosphere, organizational commitment and work involvement of the respondents. Work involvement? Yes, of the respondents. And also we found that group atmosphere, education, work involvement, these were significant predictors of the attitude towards participative management, whereas participative attitude variables, organizational commitment and quality of work life predicted the differences in the profit making and the loss making companies. This is important that if we find that there is significant difference, that means we can use some of these developmental perhaps issues to make the loss making companies as profit making companies using participative management strategy. In this study, we also found that there is a significant difference among the managers, trade union leaders and workers in terms of their attitude towards participative management. Yes, there is so there are different levels and they also differ in their attitude towards participative management. Then we come to the issue of top management commitment and HRD. See, many a times we have never paid an attention to this issue, but in one of the studies we tried to find out whether top management commitment makes any difference in the overall functioning of the organization and the issue of HRD. So, in spite of rising the need and the importance of discipline, the evidence and its applicability at the workforce are not many not really developed and developing in the countries. These are not really very much emphasized, and it is precisely this inconsistency that in the application of the status of HRD that has attracted attention and provided the impetus of some of these research studies. The premise is that once these focal issues of thoroughly sort of understood and accorded importance are seen, will perhaps be operating these will be the operating foundations for various management intervention practices to produce consistent results. Yes. So, the top management commitment we are looking at. So, the endeavor, why did we conduct this study? The endeavor is also to spot the specific problems being faced by the organizations in their implementation and they suggest some kind of a palatable solutions. So, we in this study we took 8 such factors which were identified in this study, and data were collected through a set of questionnaires which include separate measures of each of the variables, and the sample comprised of 160 respondents. They are executives and a very senior cadre, line, top and HR functionaries from 20 engineering organizations situated in the national capital region of India, and both parametric and non-parametric statistics have been used for this analysis. The results of this study suggest that there existed positive relationship between HRM effectiveness and the top management commitment to HR functions, and the findings also suggest that the improvement in the level of commitment of top functionaries towards HR initiatives is important. Okay. And so, in this study it was evident, in this study we found that the overall HR effectiveness relates to top management commitment also. Yes. So, there exists a positive relationship between HRM effectiveness and well defined, we can say, HR policy framework that an organization might have, that is the standardization of HR functions in an organization and the strategic integration of the HR with business. See, otherwise what happens that sometimes the HR and the business, these are not integrated. If we have to integrate the both, okay, for which the top management commitment becomes extremely important. Only then, because we have seen earlier that human resource is the actual important resource and you can get the work done only through human resource. So, for which the top management commitment becomes very important, which sometimes which we tend to perhaps ignore. Okay. So, HR has to be taken up as an important factor today and also in the years to come. So, the issue, so this is again an important result for us, and then we are looking at the issue of performance appraisal systems for productivity and quality research. Productivity and quality research become extremely important, and productivity and quality research addresses the multivariate, multidisciplinary aspects, and the concept becomes extremely important. One such aspect is the people dimension, which includes the performance appraisals. One of the studies, one of the papers that we have published, we found that the performance appraisal system in some Indian organizations we have analyzed, and analyzing data from 120 managers selected randomly, we found that there are individual differences in the perception of performance appraisals. Then also emotional intelligence, that has become an important factor, and emotional intelligence and MBTI profile. These days we are talking about HR in terms of developing certain qualities, which we have discussed one of the earlier opening lectures, that it becomes an important factor. So, as the knowledge of HR develops significantly and culturally and perhaps culturally, there appears an emergence of new paradigm emphasizing on the strategic HR issues, where performance outcomes, goal achievements, quality, productivity and are maintained and achieved through different designs of HR systems. Emotional intelligence is one such concept highlighting this issue, emphasizing on the diversity concept, because you may be emotionally more intelligent than perhaps someone else. Emotional intelligence is different than the intelligence, the concept of intelligence that we had been discussing so far. Okay. So, emotional intelligence is among the employees has significant role to play in the selection, training, development and participative management. However, there is a need to integrate emotional intelligence factor with other factors too. And when we are talking about emotional intelligence, the profiles emerge from MBTI, Myers-Briggs. Yes, yes, yes. So, tests may develop many types of profiles, and in this particular research study we have tried to put this as one of the investigations, and the case studies which we have developed are from bank managers, doctors, public sector managers and the private sector managers. It is observed that those lower and those who are higher in emotional intelligence have different personality profile type, and as compared to those on EQ when measured using MBTI scale. So, in this study we have implications for HR and work design. And this brings me to a model based on these research studies. The model that I have developed, you can see very carefully that we have looked at this model, and we are trying to integrate all the factors which we have discussed so far. And we are trying to say that if we create an environment, if we create a system where managers are aware of these facts, that some of the issues which we have discussed today, we can have the HRD interventions, and we can have the development climate, and organizational ecology becomes an extremely important factor for us, which will lead to ecological succession for us, and which will finally lead to the development and competitive advantage, better performance of organization. However, before we close today's lecture, we have to understand that we need investment in HRD as an important factor, which we have not really emphasized in some of the earlier lectures. When an organization tries to develop its HRD, there has to be a very formal way of looking at the HRD strategies, and investment in HRD becomes extremely important, because that will lead to the organizational ecology and the ecological successions that an organization might have. In our next lecture, which will be our concluding lecture on management now and beyond, we will look at some of the issues like quality, productivity, perhaps some other collaborations, and some other the financial issues, and perhaps some interviews with some experienced and perhaps some personalities who really have made contributions in this area. So, we close today's lecture now.